Hi, I'm Maurice Burton, and I'm from Benton Harbor, Michigan. That's about 170 miles northeast of Cincinnati. My date of birth is 3/9/58. I'm an older guy. I was born in Benton Harbor, Michigan, back in 1958, in a city that tells the story between two rivers of black community and a white community, St. Joe, Benton Harbor, Twin City. Here, my parents were born in Mississippi and migrated to Benton Harbor, Michigan for work.
What did they do for work?
My father was in the auto industry. Growing up lovable in the church, family, community, everything was positive in the community growing up. And till we moved out of housing development in mid-60s and moved to a affluent neighborhood. And that's when I finally learned about racism when we were the only black family living in an all-white neighborhood. At the time we moved in, it felt great because parents didn't teach us about racism at the time. They told us it exists, but we really didn't have any knowledge of how it would feel like being discriminated or being told that your next door neighbor child, they can't play with you anymore because of the color of their skin. I was 8 years old. My siblings, yes, it was 7 of us. Yep, I got 4 sisters and 2 other brothers. My brother was the oldest. Yeah, I'm way down the chain line. I'm in between. I'm the 5th child. I went to Stern Brunson Elementary School, and from Stern Brunson Elementary School, we went to Fair Plain Junior High, which was also another school where we had to deseg that school because it was all white, and they wanted to deseg, and so we were one of the first groups to move in as African American children into a all-white school, and we had some issues while we went there walking home from school because we had to walk back through the white neighborhoods, and we had issues that went on as walking from school. So I experienced some of those bad things. Yes, grandparents, my mom's father and aunts were in the South still, so.
Did you go to visit them a lot?
Yes, we went to visit them sometimes, and then also we went to the South because it was our church convention, and my mom always had stories of going down to the church conventions too, so.
How did you all get there?
In a car, one big car, and back then, we had no seatbelt laws, so you can put 5 kids in the back and 3 in the front. So, and we, some stood, some sit, and leaned on the seats, and that's how it was in the big Cadillac that my father had, one of those old 1957 Cadillacs. They were large, tall, you could stand up, steel, yes. Well, what I remember was always my mom then would pack lunches and pack baskets, so that we could stop and eat along the way. Well, I didn't think nothing of it at the time when I was growing up because of, we had such a large family growing up, and I'm thinking, well, maybe they're saving money. The reason we were stopping and eating, but going on a trip was always fun for us. But later on I learned in life differently that why we had to stop and why we couldn't eat at a restaurant while traveling down south. My parents had taught us about the South was different, but she never got in depth of why it was so different. And later on, she told us because we were younger, and she figured we probably wouldn't understand at that early age, and she didn't want us to, I guess I could say, start feeling a type of tension and toward another race, because my mom didn't teach us to be, racist, for example, of anyone. Only thing my mom told me was there's certain restaurants and certain gas stations and certain places we couldn't stop and eat. Now, the Green Book, I've only heard them talk about certain things, but I didn't know it was a such thing until I started reading on it and looking at the history. And I said to myself, this must be what my mom and my father them were talking about, and uncles, but at that time, I had no idea. Only thing I've had when I was coming along was when I was playing football at Morgan State University, college football, and we made it to the championship game, and we had to play Alabama and A&M. And so we rode a bus from Morgan State, which is in Baltimore, to Alabama. And on the way there, our bus broke down, and there was a white cross that was sitting on top of a hill, and we noticed pickup trucks riding by with guns in the back. And our coach said, well, this is not the place for us to get out here because we're not allowed to go get help. We had to call for another bus from the north to pick us up. And when we got to that location, the hotel where we were staying to play Alabama, we were getting ready to go downtown to eat, and the police officers stopped us and said, I advise you guys not to go downtown because I'm not responsible for you, what happens after dark. So we kind of knew what he meant, and we went back to our hotel room. So those are the things that I experienced growing up as a young man. Oh, that was in mid-'70s. Yeah, 1978. Not too long ago. And that cross is still in Huntsville on top of the hill, from my understanding, Alabama. I'm gonna have to see if it still exists. That white cross, I never will forget it.
Are you now, as an adult, a traveler? Do you like to travel?
I do, but right now I'm a caregiver for my mom, and being in this museum here brought back times where my wife and I did travel to Africa. We went to, that was one of the first places I wanted to go when I retired from being a state trooper in the state of Michigan. I said, I want to go to Africa. That's my first spot. So we did venture and went to Africa, and we went to Zanzibar, where they housed the slaves before they came over here. And it was a very eye-opening thing for us, and it was probably one of the most joyous trips that I've been on for traveling, was in Africa.
How did those experiences of traveling earlier in your life, how does that impact the way that you travel now?
It still impacts the way I travel now because I'm always cautious and always looking. I mean, it's just a part of traveling, and now with the terrorists that goes on, we didn't call it terrorists back then, but I guess, we could have placed it as terrorists when, people are riding around with shotguns in the back of their trucks and cars. But now we had to be aware of anything that goes on when you're traveling. So, I'm always aware of my surroundings. Well, the strategy was when you traveled, sometimes I didn't go with our parents all the time. They would make sure that we knew the routes that they were traveling. Someone from home would know the routes when we all traveled as a family and where we were going. And when we got to the location, we would always call to say that we made it to that location. I just thought that was a check with me type of thing growing up, but later on I found out that was to make sure you got there safe. And in the church, they used to bring us up in, and praying and telling, keep us from dangerous scenes and unseens. And I used to wonder why they always prayed that, and knowing the things that they had to go through and traveling from the north to the south and from the south back to the north. I began to probably experience some of that when I got a little older and drove myself, and driving while black, and being stopped with some of those highlighted experiences that a lot of African Americans and minorities have today, dealing with the enforcement and law enforcement. And that's some of the things that that we see where to go, where not to go, and it's instinctive training. Now, my parents, when they used to go down, they used to tell me when they went to Memphis when I was little, and my grandmother used to keep us because we had to be in school because it was during the harvest time when they had the church conventions. And they couldn't stay in the hotel. There was only one hotel they allowed the blacks to stay in, and that was the Peabody Hotel. Other than that, they had to stay with homes, in the homes of the different people, the church members that lived down there. And so we knew just off of that alone that you couldn't stay in certain places and homes, in the South, as opposed to being in the North, because my mother took us to cabins up in the Upper Peninsula, and there was fair treatment, equal treatment. I just thought it was a fun place to be. We got to stay in cabins. We got to stay in hotels. We didn't have to eat on the side of the road. We stopped at restaurants, so I knew there was a difference. I just didn't know why.
Can I ask, after all your kind of experiences with this, why you chose to go into law enforcement?
That's a funny question there. Actually, I didn't choose. I signed up to be a motor carrier. My brother-in-law was a state trooper, and him and I were pretty close, and he said, how would you like to be a state trooper? I said, oh, no way. And he said, what about motor carrier? I said, yeah, I could do that. I could stop trucks and make sure enforce the motor carrier laws. Well, he signed me up, and I thought I was taking the test for the motor carrier division, and I was in there taking the test for the state police, and I got a little upset with him at first. And he said, well, if you don't like it, you can always go back and do your other job. And I guess he had a point. I went on and completed the state police, and I tell you, it was one of the best moves I made in my life, because I was able to come back to my hometown and serve as the first community service police officer in the state of Michigan. And I was able to go into the schools and teach African American kids about the do's and the don'ts of being a citizen in the community, so they wouldn't get tied up with the penal institutions as being a young Black African American. So for me, it was one of the better moves. The Lord knew what he had in store for me before I did. So I didn't want to do it, but when I did it was like, the Lord said, this is you. So yeah, it was fun. I got a chance to coach and everything doing that, so it was fun. Coach girls, we won state champions with the girls track team, coached the boys in football, so it was a lot of fun. Enjoyed it, being a state trooper. Yep.
Nice. How long was that?
I was 31 years as a troop. Yeah. An old spring chicken. And I'm still in the schools now. I retired, and my wife let me go back to the schools to help out. So I'm still in the schools today. Actually, I educated our children at a younger age because we always had books in our house. I went to a historically Black college, HBCU, in the early 70s. I turned down scholarships to University of Michigan, Michigan State, Western. So I wanted to go to Notre Dame, and Notre Dame had the only written test that athletes could take, and I didn't pass that one written test, so I was like, I can't go to Notre Dame, I'm not going to any of those schools. So Morgan State was one of the proud African-American HBCUs that had my taste. When I went to Baltimore, it was good. Even though Ohio has a nice HBCU, my daughter graduated from there. I see you back there, Central State of Ohio. Central State, yeah, they were good, but Central State couldn't bust a grape when it came to Morgan State. We beat them. But anyway, I taught them, the same thing, driving while Black, there's certain things that you don't do. Did he experience some things, even when other police officers knew he was my son that I worked with? He had to experience some things. And, that's something that I kind of prepared him for. At a younger age, it doesn't matter, always carry yourself in a certain way. And what I used to tell the students and the young men in my community, you know, there's certain things you must do. You must live to see another day, so you respect and honor the authorities that's over you at that time, and do everything they tell you to do. And I said, tell them later on you can live to probably, you know, dispute whatever charge they may have on you, but you know, always be polite, always basically do what they have you to do and stop. One last thing, you know, is that I didn't tell you that the Lord ordered my steps and I followed that. Being brought up in the church, you know, sometimes you stray away, but being back and having grandkids, and now I'm a proud father of my grandkids and my son. He's kind of following in my footsteps, coaching and pastoring, and my daughter also. They just some go-getters. So, you know, my family is everything now, and Christ in my life. Those are things I just enjoy doing. So, yep.